Welcome to the Explainer. So look, if you're a homeowner, keeping your house running smoothly can, well, sometimes it literally feels like a full-time job, right? Today, we're building a highly practical, totally no-fluff guide to maintaining your home's heating system, using some really fascinating insights from Climate Pros SD. Think of this as your diagnostic homeowner's playbook for San Diego furnace tune-ups. Whether you're a total novice when it comes to this stuff or you're a pretty informed DIYer, we're looking closely at the data and the expert advice to give you a really clear, actionable game plan. Let's get right into it. Okay, let's dive into this because we really have to address the skepticism that almost every San Diego homeowner has. When you live in a gorgeous, mild climate, barely surviving those freezing 60-degree winters, you probably look at your furnace and think, I barely turn that thing on for a handful of nights a year. Does it really need annual maintenance? Honestly, it's a completely logical question. Why in the world would you spend money servicing a metal box that basically just sits there?
Well, here's the wild thing. Dormancy actually breeds dust and pests. This is what we call the Great San Diego Climate Paradox. The fact that you don't use your furnace for 6 to 9 months out of the year is precisely what causes the breakdowns. Low run hours? Yeah, they absolutely do not mean low risk. See, when a furnace just sits there completely undisturbed in a dark, quiet garage or attic, it becomes a literal magnet for dust buildup. And, according to the techs out in the field, it's also prime real estate for rodent nests right in the flue or around the burners. Yikes. So you aren't necessarily repairing wear and tear from overuse, you're actually repairing the damage caused by total inactivity.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we're breaking down this playbook for you today. First, the mild climate myth. Second, 7 early warning signs. Third, tune-up or furnace repair. Fourth, inside a furnace tune-up. And finally, costs and best timing. Section 1, the mild climate myth. Why low use actually means high risk. What I find so fascinating here is that the risks to your furnace actually shift depending on exactly where you live in the county. Let's look at the coast first. Places like Point Loma or Mission Valley. You often find newer, highly energy efficient, really tightly sealed homes there. And hey, that's great for your energy bill. But it means if your furnace isn't venting correctly, those dangerous combustion byproducts get trapped tightly right inside your living space. So the stakes for a proper venting check are incredibly high. Now, conversely, out in inland communities, think El Cajon, Escondido, La Mesa, the temperature swings are way colder at night. Plus, the housing stock tends to be older, often relying on furnaces that are 15, maybe over 20 years old. Those aging systems, they're working a lot harder against that inland chill, so they need more attention, not less. Okay, moving on to Section 2, 7 early warning signs. Let's figure out how to spot trouble early. You can actually catch a lot just by paying attention to your environment, using your own senses. First up, the smell. A little dust burning off on the very first cold night, totally normal. But if you have a faint burning dust smell that just lingers way past startup, your burners need attention. Next, listen to the unit. Any rattling, whistling, or humming usually points to loose panels, a dirty blower wheel, or maybe a worn belt. Third, feel the airflow. Are your vents blowing soft or unevenly, leaving some rooms noticeably colder than others? That's almost always a dirty filter or some blower buildup. And finally, check the vents themselves. If you see way more dust than usual accumulating around the registers, your system is practically screaming for a cleaning. Now, these might just seem like minor annoyances, but they're explicit, telltale indicators that a tune-up is required. Beyond what you can physically sense, we have to look at the system's actual performance. Like, is there a longer delay before the burners finally ignite? If you're standing there hearing clicking and humming for a few extra seconds before the flame catches, you're likely dealing with a dirty igniter or flame sensor. Another massive red flag, your gas bill. If it's creeping up, but your usage habits literally haven't changed at all, your system is burning less efficiently. It's pulling more gas just to hit the exact same temperature. And the final, undeniable warning sign, the calendar. If your system hasn't been touched by a technician in 12 months or more, it's due. Seriously, even if nothing feels obviously wrong just yet. All right, Section 3, tune-up or repair. It is absolutely crucial to know the difference here. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what we're talking about. This chart is so incredibly practical. If you have weak airflow, those ignition delays we talked about, or a rise in gas bill, you are firmly in the tune-up column. These are early stage, totally fixable issues. But if your furnace is short cycling, meaning it constantly turns on and off rapidly, that's a repair. If it's blowing cold air, yep, repair. And if you hear a loud bang or boom on startup, wow, that is an urgent repair indicating a delayed ignition or possibly even a cracked heat exchanger.
At that point, that is not a maintenance issue anymore. You're looking at a full-on system failure.
So what we are establishing here is a really hard line. Look, a system that just needs a tune-up still runs. It just isn't running quite the way it used to, right? It's in that early, still cheap to fix stage. On the other hand, a system that needs a repair is actively failing on you. The entire logic of this homeowner's diagnostic playbook is to catch the system while it's still in the top category, so it never, ever crosses that hard line into the bottom category. Moving right along to Section 4, Inside a Tune-Up. Let's look at exactly what pro diagnostics look like. So, the crucial point is this. The absolute safety-critical component of your entire furnace is the heat exchanger. Think of it as the heart of the system. If there is a crack here, deadly odorless carbon monoxide can leak directly into your home's airflow. This is exactly why a professional tune-up is not just about keeping you comfortably warm, it is fundamentally about keeping you safe. Because of that risk, this specific piece gets checked every single time a professional opens up your unit, not just when something seems off. And beyond the heat exchanger, a professional is going to run through a highly technical checklist. They're doing a thorough burner inspection and cleaning, and testing both the ignition system and the flame sensor. They're actually hooking up specialized tools to check the gas pressure and connections to make sure everything is perfectly dialed into spec. Plus, they'll test the blower motor, the airflow, and physically inspect the flue and venting for any blockages or corrosion. Honestly, this is so much more than just walking over to the unit and sliding in a fresh filter. It is a comprehensive head-to-toe diagnostic of the machine. Section 5. Costs and best timing. When should you actually call the pros, and what's it going to cost you? Your target cost is going to be anywhere from $90 to $200. That is the standard going rate for a standalone tune-up in the San Diego area, obviously depending on the specific company. And honestly, when you contrast that incredibly affordable maintenance fee with the thousands of dollars you'd spend on, say, a full blower motor replacement or a totally new furnace, I mean, it's a no-brainer. Spending a little bit of money proactively now absolutely protects your wallet from a massive hit later on. Let's move to and see how this builds your calendar for the year. You have a very specific, ideal servicing window right in the fall. September is fantastic for scheduling early while the weather is still pretty warm and HVAC companies aren't swamped yet. October is your mid-fall prep, the perfect time to clear out those 9 months of idle dust and debris we talked about. And November? Well, November is really your absolute final window. You want this done before the first genuinely cold night hits. You absolutely do not want your furnace being asked to work hard for the very first time in months on the exact same night that everyone else's furnace in San Diego is breaking down. Now, as you think about getting this done, remember to know your limits. We all love a good DIY project for sure, but it's super important to know exactly where to draw the line. What you can do safely is handle your own filter changes and clear any external dust and debris away from the unit and your home's vents. Just keep the general area clean. But what requires a pro? Anything involving the burner cleaning, gas pressure checks, or that heat exchanger inspection we highlighted. Those require a vetted, licensed technician with specialized tools and training. Why? Because a single mistake there creates a severe safety and carbon monoxide risk. Seriously, do not mess around with the gas and the combustion systems. So as we wrap up this explainer, I'm going to leave you with this final crucial thought. Will you catch the warning signs before that first cold San Diego night? You now have the playbook. You know the mild climate myth, you know the sounds and smells to look out for, and you know the very real difference between an affordable tune-up and a disastrous repair. The control is completely in your hands now. Thank you so much for joining me to walk through this material today. Now, seriously, go check your vents, listen for that startup click, and I will see you on the next explainer.